Hello, inmates, and welcome back to the cellblock Scorch. 'Tis I, Octo, coming at you with yet another silly little thing that I actually forgot I wrote, but I think this one's really funny. Hopefully you agree. This week is 240B, and the prompt was Instructions Unclear. Mission Accomplished. From Bones, who was specifically making fun of me with that prompt because sometimes I say things and it makes perfect sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to anybody else. I'm sure you've noticed this if you listen to, anything I've recorded. And without further ado, we're going to just get right into this piece. It is part of my Dragon Throne universe, which I think I've recorded one. Have I recorded anything for them before? I don't think so. So this is going to be the first one, I think, that I've recorded for you. If not, I'm sorry if I lied. But the title of this piece is Auditory Malfunction. Tasha would be the first to admit that her Drakish was a little bit inadequate, to say the least. Had she been stuck in this hellish dragon dimension for over a year? Yes. Had she had ample time to practice Drakish with Tariki, who spoke both Drakish and English perfectly? Also yes, technically. Not that either of them had capitalized on it. The fact was, she spent the whole year hiding in the forest like a muddy gremlin and avoiding all weird lizard people like her life depended on it, alright? Not particularly conducive to language learning. Point being, she wasn't exactly fluent, and Jip had spoken very quickly to her after yanking her into a shadowy doorway with a hissed, "Taka no!" She'd said something about visitors and dangerous, and made an emphatic, flapping, go away, silly human sort of motion, then loped off with her myriad of bejeweled swords jingling like she didn't have a care in the world. So, that was that. Would it kill people to enunciate? Everything sounded so sibilant and slippery. She couldn't make heads or tails of what Jip was saying when she got worked up like that. Tasha lingered in the doorway a moment longer, absent-mindedly picking a loose pebble in the cool stone wall, then decided that Jip probably wanted her to go hide in her room. If there were dangerous visitors about and whatnot, Tasha did not want to meet them. Every single draken that she'd met had either wanted to, A, murder her for reasons she didn't quite catch because of the language barrier, B, capture her for reasons she didn't quite catch because of the language barrier, or C, help her hide from the first two types of people for reasons she didn't quite catch because of, you guessed it, the language barrier. Seeing as Jip was in category C, Tasha was willing to take her advice. Or, well, what was probably her advice. With a cavalier shrug, Tasha began her slightly brisk mosey toward her room. No use running. It just made more noise for absurdly sensitive ears to pick up on. She peaceably made her way through several sandstone-lined corridors, took a quick detour through the kitchen to grab a yellowish knot apple and a bottle of mystery ale for the road, then finally slipped into her room. With a careless tap at the sigil inscribed next to the doorway, the entire wall slid closed, eerily silent considering the sheer amount of rock being moved. As a finishing touch, she scattered around several papers inscribed with wishes to remain undetected, then flopped bonelessly onto her bizarrely round bed. She'd made it without meeting one dangerous visitor. Mission accomplished. Jip would never even know that Tasha had no idea what she said. Jip power-walked through the hallways, barely pausing to enjoy the jingle of her many, many armaments in her hurry to hunt down Taka before the wards started triggering. Lilia had been poking around the Grotton's defenses, ancient, spotty things that they were, and something had started to wriggle loose. Tariki had put it quickly to rights with due haste, but because of some garbage magical inertia, the entire cave system was apparently going to shortly start convulsing around anyone not properly integrated into the wards in order to crush them to death for trespassing for the foreseeable future. Taka, despite their best efforts, was not integrated into the wards because she didn't have any aether to put into them, because she wasn't Draken. which meant that the clueless human was about to become a bloody smear unless she got out of the hallways post-haste. Kotio was busy repressing the effects by physically holding the burgeoning wave of aether back long enough to hopefully get Taka somewhere safe. And Tariki and Elian were fixing the ward. So it was up to Jip to find her and tell her what was happening. Secondary problem that Jip had just recently become aware of. One of Lilia's lackeys was poking around the grotto's entrance, and Jip needed to go stab him in the face immediately. She didn't have time to be wandering around. Where the hay was... There! Jip snatched Taka by the arm and hauled her into her doorway. The human made that odd little offended "hey" noise she often made when surprised. But Jip talked over her. Taka, there's a problem with the wards, and the Groton is going to start trying to crush anyone in the hallways who it sees as an intruder, which is you. Stay out of the hallways until one of us comes to get you. It's too dangerous right now. She made an emphatic "stay in the room" motion, then quickly swirled around to rush to the entrance. Jip heard Taka shift around a bit. But she didn't move out of the relative safety of the doorway, so she redirected her attention at a new target. Time to use some knives.
Hey inmates, it's Bones with Judge Comments. This was a fun prompt. I got submissions from Octo, Cricket, and Matches, and they were all delightful. Matches wrote about a shapeshifter character of his called Murder, who I love, and Cricket wrote an interesting exchange between two people that hinted at something really interesting, magic or something. Would recommend reading both of them if you're on the Patreon, but in the end, I chose Octo's because, first of all, it was the most complete story, and I love things that have twists and answers, and also the way it was used, the prompt was used, was just so funny to me. Like, the instructions unclear being an actual language barrier, and then Tasha explicitly not doing what she was told and completely misinterpreting the danger, but the mission was accomplished because, hey, at least she didn't die. It was a fun read, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. That's all for me, so back to Octo for author comments.
Yes, I forgot I wrote this. I like this one a lot. It's really silly. I think it has a lot of fun little world-building bits in it that I haven't been able to, use in my other stories so far. So, what you need to know about this particular little world here is that it's basically, I read this one story. I don't remember what it is anymore. And it made me so mad. It was like an isekai story of some kind. And I was so pissed about the plot and, people being forgiven when they shouldn't have been, and the ending, coming around with everyone being buddies again, that I concocted this entire story specifically for someone to do an unforgivable act and to remain unforgiven for the entire story. That's why this world exists, okay? Because I'm incredibly petty. The base of this thing, okay, our three main characters, because there are three, because I'm insane, is you've got Tasha. She is a human being. She was an editor in her previous life, before she was summoned like a demon into this world, that I can't remember the name of right now. I named it something, but, you think I'd remember, but I don't. So she was summoned like a demon. She is not happy about it. She ended up in the forest somewhere, just running around and trying to survive. And she, as established here, she doesn't really speak the language. She didn't get a handy little translator's flippy spell. So she's kind of been going feral in the woods. Tareki is the other kind of isekai that happens a lot, if you read isekai novels, or, manga or whatever. He woke up in the body of the evil advisor of the evil queen. He also is the one who wrote this story. Yes. So he's the author. He has been isekai'd into the villain. Well, one of them. Like a minor villain. And he is also just trying to survive, but he speaks Draken because he was isekai'd into the head of a guy who already knew it. Which is why he speaks English in Drakish, you see. And there's Koteo, who's just kind of vaguely mentioned here, and he's like the quintessential like Dark Duke character in these sorts of things. He's king of a mountain that holds this thing called the Nexus, which is basically like a super concentration of the magic of the world that he's been kind of holding as a neutral party so that nobody in charge of a kingdom could get it. And that's why people are trying to break into it right now. The evil queen in this little part of the story is attempting to break in to steal his crap, and he's not very happy about it. And this whole story is literally set up so that I can make the prince, who is the original protagonist of this novel, okay? He's a very greater good kind of guy. Should I tell this to you? I don't know. I'm telling this to you. The whole point is he's gonna budify. He's gonna be buddies with these three, okay? They're gonna have a rapport. They're gonna do things. And he is going to horribly betray them, specifically Tasha, personally, okay? He's gonna do her so very wrong. And in the end, none of them forgive him. That's the whole story. Well, the story is happier than that, but that's the whole basis of this whole story. I feel insane explaining it like that. But there's a lot of fun little world-building things in this that I really enjoy. The Draken, I'm sure you can imagine from the very imaginative name, are basically dragon people. And they can't say Tasha's name right. Because they got a Jacobson's organ, yeah? Like snakes at the top of the roof of their mouths. And to make this shh kind of noise, it's really weird feeling for them because they like blow air directly onto their Jacobson's organ. So they just call her Taka. And that's why she's Taka instead of Tasha when Jip is thinking. Fun fact. I could talk about this world a lot because I've thought about it a lot because that's just what happens when I get annoyed with media. Apparently, I make an entire world and do a whole bunch of crap inside of it, specifically to make a point to myself, basically. But I enjoy the tone of this piece because Tasha does not fear when she should, and she fears when she shouldn't. She's trying her best. And so is Jip, but Jip is more interested in stabbing people than, like, making sure people know what's up. An unfortunate reality of being Jip. I actually have, like, a good chunk of the novel that this is kind of referencing written out. One day I'll finish it, and it'll be great. I just have to finish writing it. But I hope you enjoyed this small look into, currently I'm calling it Dragon Throne. Which is lame. But it's probably going to stick, because that's what I've been calling it for like a year. I hope you enjoyed this little thing with me. Alright, I gave the prompt. 1 second, I have to find the prompt. My buttons, they betray me. Okay, there we go. I gave the next prompt for 241B. They were, tragically, fresh out of horseshoes, and therefore doomed. Not my best prompt, I will admit. I don't know what I was thinking that week. I think I was just messing around with the random word generator, and I was like, this is a funny sentence. It wasn't particularly inspiring for the folks, unfortunately, but I chose Red's because hers is really funny, that she wrote. I don't know if she's very thrilled with it, but I liked it, and I hope you like it too. That is it for me this evening for me right now, but probably not for you. And I hope that you are enjoying this podcast. Keep this fire burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. Links to all our projects, including Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Patreon, and Ko-Fi, can be found on our Linktree, posted in each episode description. Follow us on Tumblr or Instagram to see the prompt of the day before the episode drops, and a quote from each Scorch the day after. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon. There, you can access the Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to our embers as well.